Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I am so excited to be here again today. Facebook keeps moving my adjustments around. Here we go. Now you can kind of see my face. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom. I am a nana. I am a significant other. I am an entrepreneur with an online activewear boutique. I am a runner, a jazzerciser, and most of the time I look like this when you see me on Wednesday mornings because I'm either coming from or about to go to some type of workout when I'm done here. Good morning, Miss Carla. I started Wellness Wednesday because I believe that wellness is a very broad topic that covers a lot of different things and that we can best benefit by sharing tips and information of what works for us to keep us mentally and physically well. Good morning, Dennis. Good to see you. What works for us to keep us mentally and physically well, to share ideas, because one thing doesn't work for everybody and not all of the things work for just one person, right? So if you're just stumbling on my page, I hope you'll enjoy the Wellness Wednesday. We are here every week on Wednesday morning at 7:15. And if you think of a topic that you would like me to cover, I'd love to learn things. So please feel free to reach out to me or drop a comment on something you would like to see covered. No politics or negativity, please. That neither of those are beneficial in the wellness department. So oftentimes with Wellness Wednesday, we end up talking about mindset, even though there's a lot about wellness that has to do with the body and the diet. We often end up diving into mindset. I hope you enjoyed, if you saw last week's Wellness Wednesday with guest speaker Cindy Fine from NAMI Citrus. It was amazing. Little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, but I hope to be able to have other guest speakers on in the future, intermittently as they apply to whatever topics we're talking about. But I do love to learn new information. So again, if there's something that you would like to see covered, and aren't really sure where to start, shoot me a message or drop a comment and I'll look into it and see if I can get in depth while staying general enough, if that makes sense, to cover it on a future Wellness Wednesday. So I'm so glad you're here. Last week's episode was so exciting. If you did not see it, let me know and I will be happy to tag you in the comments, because Cindy is from NAMI Citrus, but NAMI is a national organization that can provide mental health resources, mental illness resources to everybody anywhere. And there is a NAMI near you. We just have to find it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about energy leaks. This is something that I actually had on the list for a couple weeks, but moved it around to accommodate our guest speaker last week. So we're going to talk about energy leaks, what the heck they are, and how to plug them, how to get rid of them. Why are they important? Well, yes, it was amazing. Thank you, Carla. I'm so glad you were on. What energy leaks are depends on who you ask. Why are they important? So picture yourself as a beautiful ship floating on the ocean. You guys know I love my analogies, right? Your energy leaks are holes that are letting water seep in slowly into the ship. And what happens when a ship starts taking on water? Well, over time it starts to sink, right? So same idea here with energy leaks. So before I tell you what they are and how to get rid of them, how do you know you have them? Well, some of the manifestations of energy leaks look a lot like some of the symptoms of depression, anxiety, burnout, and several other things. So just like anything else when it comes to mental health, you kind of have to weed through and sometimes not focus so much on labeling what it is that you have or how it is that you're feeling. Thank you, Dennis. But more work on the little individual components a little bit at a time. And eventually that kind of comes around to an overall general better feeling of wellness. Let's see if I can make words today, because I'm not 100% sure so far that it's going to happen right. Okay, so how do we know we have energy leaks? Well, energy leaks cause procrastination, even on the things that are most important to you. If there is something you really, really want to do or really, really want to try, and you are struggling to get to it, there's probably a reason for it, and it can probably be lumped into the category of energy leaks. Feeling overwhelmed by day-to-day life. Now, a lot of times when we talk about this kind of overwhelm, we're talking about more of a mental or emotional overwhelming as opposed to a physical overwhelm. Feeling exhausted all of the time, same thing. This is going to be more along the lines of a mental or emotional exhaustion, more than a physical exhaustion, but eventually it's going to work its way around to physical too, because if you're not taking care of your mind, a lot of times that leaks out into the body in forms of many different types of symptoms. Finding that even the smallest of tasks are difficult. If you're struggling to, I don't know, some mornings, even the strongest people I know have bad days. If you're struggling to get out of bed because you're overwhelmed by what's coming in the day, or because you have all these things you want to do, but you can't figure out how to get to them, you might have energy leaks. I have to be careful how I say that, because this is starting to sound like a comedy show here. You might be a fill in the blank if. And if you can't seem to get to your priorities, the things that are the most important to you, because you feel mired down, mud bogged down in other things that are not helping you reach your goals, then that's probably a sign that you have energy leaks. Okay, so what are they? It depends on who you ask. And there's a lot of different schools of thought, and I've pulled from a few different resources. So if you want those, feel free to message me. I'll send you those links. And one of them has to do with having online businesses like I have, but I find that the principles apply across the board, whether you have an online business or whether you're just you're retired and trying to get things done at home, or whether you're working full-time, part-time, both, and just trying to get through the day, right? So for the most part, energy leaks are going to be things that that drain your energy and slowly add to your exhaustion. Sometimes they're distractions and things that are not being addressed. So they hang over your head and impede your focus, if that makes sense. So what are they? All right, let's talk about what they are. Open loops. Open loops is a term used by Jessica Massey to describe incomplete tasks or conversations. And I don't know about you, but for me, this is probably at the top of the list. Things that we don't feel like we can get done, or things that we start that we don't complete. Those are open loops. They can be conversations. They can be a conversation you start with somebody, but get interrupted and don't circle back around to finish. They could be conversations that need to happen, like a family member that you haven't talked to in a while. I am guilty of this. I have one kind of hanging on the side here that reaches out to you that you have not called back. They could be piles of things sitting around that need to be gone through. The queen of piles, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Actually, now seems like a good point. So piles of things that need to be gone through. So I had these piles, and tax day was pending, and I knew that there were business items in several of these piles, and I just wasn't getting to the piles. But every time and this is actually a great example, every time I looked at the pile, it like stressed me out. I kept thinking, I got to do that, I got to do that, I got to do that, and working on other things. But this was hanging over my head the whole time. So when you have these things that are incomplete, that are hanging over your head, they tend to keep you from moving forward to the things that you need to be working on, because you feel fragmented, for lack of a better way to put it. Well, in this case, I could not put my hands on my Home Depot card, and it was freaking me out. So in the effort to find it, by the way, it was in a pocket of my wallet that I never put it in. So that just makes this that much more humorous. So in an effort to put my hands on this Home Depot card that I hadn't seen since my boyfriend went and grabbed something with it, and he was sure he had given me, I ended up going through all of these piles that have been hanging over my head literally for months. I'm going through every single one of them looking for this Home Depot card. And then as I'm going through them, I'm like, well, that's a business tax receipt for last year. And I'm going to need that. So let me set that aside. So what ended up happening was, in kind of a state of emergency, or perceived emergency, if you will, I ended up getting rid of those piles and actually getting halfway prepared to do my taxes by the time I found the Home Depot card after I checked my wallet for the third time. So this is a great example because it's a perfect picture of how little things that are incomplete can just completely derail you. They just keep seeping in and seeping in until nothing else can happen until they're taken care of, right? Okay, so that's a great example of open loops. Engaging in negative talk, whether it's negative talk like gossip about other people, or negative self-talk. And if you haven't been on my Wellness Wednesday before, you know I get particularly passionate about negative self-talk. Overexertion, having a general lack of boundaries, not being able to say no. I am the queen of biting off more than I can chew. And I'm telling you that because I want you to know that you're not the only one. Struggling to make words this morning. Failing to implement boundaries and not take on, keeping yourself from taking on things that don't align with your goals, or that you just know you don't have the capacity to handle. And the reason I say I am the queen of that is because I love volunteering. I love helping in my community. I love helping other people. And I frequently get myself bogged down in saying yes to too many things, and making commitments to too many things of that nature. And then my goals go on the back burner, and create open loops of things that are not being completed. I am currently studying for my personal trainer certification, and I am going to become a personal trainer this week. Dennis, I'm so glad to see you. No problem. I'm sure you know that you can always come back to it later after work or on your lunch break. It'll be sitting here waiting for you to see it. Have a great day at work. So I actually started studying to be a personal trainer in 2016 when I was finishing up my bachelor's degree. Now, how's that for a flag? I'm trying to finish a bachelor's degree and I decide, I'm going to do this too. Okay, a little bit of rabbit trail. So because the bachelor's degree ultimately was more important, I never finished the personal trainer certification. And this has been an open loop that's been hanging over my head for obviously 7 years now. So I have taken it on again and I am studying diligently as much as my open loops will allow me to get to that priority. And I am going to be taking my personal trainer examination at the end of June, and I am going to be ready for it. However, I do have some other commitments that are perfect examples of things that I may have bitten off that were a little bit too much, and I do need to get those done before I can put my full focus on that. But it is happening, and it is happening this year, and I'm very excited about it. So again, examples of lack of boundaries, open loops. And then a lot of times what happens is as you continue to take on, you say yes to others when you don't really have the capacity. You're overwhelmed by all these incompleted tasks while you're just trying to get through daily life. A lot of times the first thing that goes out the window is you're not taking care of yourself, and not taking care of yourself causes energy leaks. And then, of course, the final thing, not the final thing, there's a lot of things, but the final thing for me today to cover with you is hyper-focus on the past or future. Hyper-focus on the past is going to keep you from moving forward on many things. If you are constantly ruminating over things that you did, or things that you think you should have done, or things that you think you did wrong, it is almost impossible to move forward on anything. And hyper-focus on the future in the form of worrying about it, which is also often the underlying factor in anxiety, will also keep you from getting to the things that are right in front of you that need attention. So those are just 5 examples of energy leaks. There's many more. Again, it depends on who you ask and what approach, if they're approaching it from a spiritual end or business end or a personal end. But these 5, I think, cover most of us no matter what we are doing. So how do we plug them? That's what everybody really wants to know, right? We plug them first. There's several options here. And again, several other ways. I have links for the resources I've used. If you want them, please feel free to message me or drop a comment and I will message you with those links. But the first and foremost way, especially in this day and age, is to turn down the noise. There's a lot of noise coming from a lot of different directions. It used to just be, years ago, it was just the TV. You just had to worry about the TV or the radio, but there's the TV, there's the radio, there's the social media. There's your phone. You might not even be on social media. You might be scrolling through documentaries and news videos, whatever. There's a lot of noise out there, and most of it is probably not beneficial. So, and I'm saying this to you as someone that runs an online business from her phone. There are times, and from social media, we're all on it right now, and it is a very useful tool. Sometimes we've got to shut it down. And what I mean by that is if you can take time each day, an hour or even 15 minutes, if you can't work it in any other way, little bits and pieces at a time, even 15 minutes to turn off the notifications on your phone or put your phone somewhere else where you can't hear it, you can't see it, it can't talk to your watch, stay off of the social media, keep the TV off, and spend time in quiet, whether that's out in nature, in the woods, in your backyard, at the playground on a swing. Spend some time in the quiet, listening to yourself and to everything around you. Good morning, Miss Tina. Good to see you. Leave the phone alone. Get away from the distractions. That is one way to start plugging those energy leaks, because when you have that time alone, you have the opportunity to clear your brain. You have the opportunity to create a kind of creative space. So if you're trying to figure out how to get to certain goals that you have, creating that creative space may allow you to come up with new ideas to get there. Now, that does not mean new ideas to rabbit trail onto something else. But the point is that it's very, very important to spend time in the quiet. Like I said, without those distractions, turning down the noise. There are some days, my daughter came by to see me yesterday and had spent a few hours out running around doing errands, helping with an upcoming community event. And a lot of times when I do that and I see and talk to a lot of people, good morning, Danielle. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. By the time I got home, she got here. She stopped by here to pick a couple of things up, and it was pretty dark in the house because I didn't have any lights on because I didn't need them. And it was quiet. And she's like, "It is so dark in here." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's how I like it sometimes." You've got to sometimes just shut all of that off and take away those distractions. So, one of the ways that you can also do that, if you're like, I can't fit in 15 minutes of quiet without my phone or without interruptions, Donna, one of the ways that you can do that is with planning and time blocking. And my mentor, one of my business coaches, talks about this a lot, about not picking up your phone or looking at anything or turning on the news or anything for the first hour or 30 minutes that you're up, so that you have time for yourself, taking time for gratitude, meditation, journaling, whatever. And if you are struggling to find a way that you can fit that in, one of my mentors just talks about time blocking all the time. And if you spend enough time around people that are smarter than you, you start doing the things they're doing. Time blocking has been a struggle for me because I would try to block out my whole entire week. Don't do that. One day at a time, y'all. Sometimes it's a couple hours at a time. But if you can schedule that time to yourself, whether it's for a run, like I said, or meditation or whatever means that you are getting away from those distractions and away from all that noise to clear your head, and find that creative space. If you need to work it into your schedule and schedule that time, that's actually usually very beneficial, often for self-care items like workouts as well. If you want to know more about time blocking, feel free to message me. I can even talk maybe a little bit on a future Wellness Wednesday about that. So you'll have to let me know, drop a comment or message me. Create a task list. So all these piles, I call them piles, All these things that are undone that you're like, I need to do that. I need to do that. Oh crap, I forgot about that again. I need to do that. Create a task list or a leak list, whatever you want to call it. I have a sticky note. Microsoft Windows has a sticky note feature. It might be Microsoft Office. I have a sticky note on my computer. It is separate from my daily to-do list. I have a to-do list each day, which is the top 5 or 6 items that I have to get done that day. The task list or the leak list are those little things that you can keep putting off, but they hang over your head and they go, hey, I'm still here. You haven't addressed me yet. Hey, I need you to look at me over here soon. That's your leak list or your task list. And you can create a sticky note or a separate list and you put it up. And the goal here, the recommendation from Jessica Massey, is to break that leak list or task list up into, first of all, prioritize out of all of those things. What is the top thing you need to get done? What order of priority are they in? And then block 10 or 15 minutes 2 or 3 times a week to start working on those items in little bites. Now, Jessica recommends addressing 2 to 3 of those tasks in a week, over the course of a week. In previous trainings that I've been on where we talk about energy leaks, sometimes it's, okay, here's this little pile right here. We're just going to look at that today. We're going to sort that out today, get rid of whatever's not relevant, and put whatever else is in its appropriate place. This could be your closet. If your closet looks like a department store exploded, sometimes organizing one drawer makes you feel accomplished without overwhelming you with the entire task that needs to be completed. So I'm more of a fan of blocking 10 to 15 minutes, if that's all you have, 2 to 3 times a week, to just take little bites on those things until those tasks are completed. Because obviously if they were life-altering, have to be done 5 minutes ago tasks, you would have them on the other to-do list, right? And they would have already been done. Okay, so that's the task list. And there's a couple of different ways to approach that. So again, if you want more information about that, I'm happy to send you the links I'm working with today, or have more of a conversation with you on this. Because like I said, I am the queen of piles. Most of them are gone now, but I still have a couple I'm working on. Stop multitasking. I read an article from Reader's Digest many years ago, and this was before multitasking just became everything. This was before, we're talking Reader's Digest here. So this is before the onset of all of the technology that makes us able to do 50 things at once. And that article said, and I believe it to this day, because it made sense to me, and I'll explain why in a minute, is that, you got it, Miss Carla, I definitely will, is that multitasking makes you stupid. And it's not so much that it makes you stupid, and there's so many jobs, businesses, corporations that want the ultimate multitasker for their positions. The truth of the matter is multitasking hurts you. It hurts your ability to focus on one thing. And that means that the things that you are working on, that you're doing 2 or 3 things at a time, they're each not getting the same attention. And so you are performing less, if that makes sense. Because you're not focusing on one specific thing. It's my hope, and it kind of sounds, because there's more chatter about this in the general workspace, it's my hope that companies will stop emphasizing multitasking so much, because while, especially in customer service jobs where you've got phones ringing and people walking in and other things going on, multitasking is necessary. I don't believe anymore that it's something that should be emphasized so much, because some of us, can't even we have difficulty sitting down just to read a chapter in a book, or to read a document without also looking at our phones and also talking to somebody else in the room, and also getting up to go do something else, or maybe, yes, exactly, Tina. Or maybe, trying to cook dinner while we're listening to this training and also reading this over here and folding laundry. We could be so much more effective and so much more productive if we could actually start something and finish it without doing anything else, right? And I found that very frustrating in my career. Unfortunately, it's not always possible. Like I said, many jobs, many situations do require multitasking. But if you can find a way to do it less, turn off the phone, turn off your notifications, even if it's just a small thing, and go from start to finish without interruption, except for the ones that you absolutely cannot control. If you can shut down the interruptions that you can control, at my job, I used to be like, you know what? Let me call you back on this because I'm working on this thing right now and it's got to be done. And then I can pay attention to that. And most of the time people understood that, depending on the situation. So especially if you're retired, or you're working from home and you find yourself easily distracted from whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to focus on by other things, it's time to turn off that noise, put those things away, and say, for this next hour, I am only working on this item. And I think that I do believe that if employers and business owners could be more cognizant of the fact that things are getting done less well because they're getting done simultaneously with other things, that we would see a lot of improvement in the workspace and in burnout, and workspace mental health. Okay, so multitasking, just try turning off the phone, try completing one thing from start to finish without doing anything else. Sorry guys, this Florida weather, back and forth, it's making me crazy, and my sinuses too. Good morning, Miss Kim, how are you today? Okay, so next thing, understanding your limits and learning to say no. As I said, I am the queen of biting off more than I can chew. I have a very difficult time telling people I know if they need help and it's something I can help them with. The problem is that there's not always enough hours in the day. And then that means that taking care of myself goes way to the back burner, and sometimes those other priorities go way to the back burner because I am constantly trying to do for other people. And I am a huge fan of giving back to the community, and I'm a huge fan of focusing your attention on other people and helping other people when you can to take your focus off of yourself, but you have to know your limits. So it's okay to set boundaries. And if you are working on, for example, I'm working on a personal trainer certification, I'm working on finding a school to go back for my master's degree. So if I'm continually saying yes to things that don't work into that equation, then I'm probably never going to get to something, right? So it's okay to understand your limits and know when you're taxed out. I know that the old saying is if you want something done, to give it to a busy person, but our new world with the technology the way it is in our current culture emphasizes being busy as a badge of honor, or being too busy as a badge of honor. And that's not a good thing either. Because at the end of the day, and we talked about this, not last Wednesday because we had Cindy from NAMI Citrus, the Wednesday before, when we talked about, it was kind of a self-care, how to feed ourselves. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So if you are so busy doing for others that you are not taking time to yourself, you're not working out, you're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly, you see what happens there? That's all your energy leaking out all over the place. And then you can't do the simple things like just get through the day. So self-care is really super important. And you know that what that always looks like for me, that's diet, that's exercise, that's praying or meditation or positive vibes or whatever it is that works for you. Journaling, gratitude, things like that. You have to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of others. Okay? And then the last and most important thing about plugging energy leaks is not, this is a double-edged sword here. You should not be acting out of fear of judgment. That's the best way to say it. So what does that mean? That means if you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, if you're taking on things that you don't have the capacity for, that you just don't have the time or the energy for, or any place to fit it in, without it being at your own expense, and you're doing that because you're afraid of other people thinking of you badly if you say no, don't do that. Don't do that. And on the same note, if you are failing to do things that you really want to do, or things that are really going to feed your soul, go mow those lawns, Miss Kim. This will be here for you to watch the rest of when you get back. I hope you have a great day. Be safe, please. If you are not doing things that are really in your heart to do because you're afraid of what other people are going to think or say, that's why I said this is a double-edged sword. This is like two sides of the same coin. If you're not doing things that are really on your heart to do because you're afraid of what people are going to do or say or think, then you're still acting out of fear of judgment. So think hard about the things that you are doing. And if you're doing them because you somehow feel pressured, because you're afraid somebody won't like you, or you're afraid somebody's going to say anything, there are so many things that we do and don't do because of our perception of what other people are going to think about us, feel about us, or say about us. And we as a whole, as a culture, have to stop that. I truly believe that keeps us from personally growing, because we act and react out of fear all of the time. So that's probably one of the biggest ways to plug an energy leak. If there's something that's on your heart to do, you know, when I thought about Wellness Wednesday, and I mapped out Wellness Wednesday in my head for probably a year before I finally just got on Facebook one day live and said, here I am, and this is what I'm doing. And the reason was because I kept thinking, who would want to hear from me? Who would want to talk about this kind of thing? We have a way of just, it's that negative self-talk of just degrading ourselves of what could possibly be a fantastic or very beneficial thing, because we make up our minds way ahead of time that we're not worthy and that nobody else wants to hear from us. We each have unique gifts, and we have things that we have the ability, talents that we can impact everybody with. So if there's something that's on your heart to do, to step out and do, and you're talking yourself out of it because you're afraid of what others are going to say or think, stop that. Stop that. Stopping that is part of the reason we're here today having this conversation. So it's really important. And if you're doing things that don't align with your goals, or that suck the energy out of you because you're afraid somebody's going to be upset with you, or that they're not going to be your friend anymore, I know that seems like an infantile way to say it, but it's really what it boils down to, because we don't like rejection. We want everybody to love us, right? So if you're doing things that suck the energy out of you, that don't align with your goals because you're afraid of being rejected by somebody else if you don't do them, then you need to stop. And if there's things that you're not doing that are on your heart that you know are good things, that are things that will feed your soul, and you're not doing them because you're afraid of what others will think or say, you need to stop doing that too. I know it's easier said than done, but that's why we're here every Wednesday, to talk about these things and talk about ways to bite these things off in little chunks, so that we all feel more well every single day. So I hope that helped you. A lot of people, I had never heard of the term energy leaks until probably 3 or 4 months ago, even though I had plenty of them. I knew what they were. They just didn't have an official name. So there you go. Energy leaks, what they are, how you know you have them, and some ways to start plugging them. Again, if you want the links that I used today as resources, besides my own personal experience, I'm happy to send those to you. Drop a comment, send me a message. Thank you so much for being here. If you found this helpful, please share it, because it's exciting to, especially when people reach out to me and they're like, this was so helpful. Thank you so much. There were some amazing shares on the NAMI citrus, the NAMI guest speaker last week. Thank you, Tina. So I hope you found something in here helpful. Some of it may be things you've heard of before, but as you know, I always say, sometimes we have to be beat over the head with it 18 or 19 times before it's finally that right moment where it just clicks and we understand what we need to do or what we need to change. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please share. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk a little bit about meditation, and I'm kind of excited about that. So I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a fabulous Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a fabulous day. Bye.